Good evening, whenever or wherever you're listening to or watching us. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me on this trip to Madripoor to confront the power brokers, our very own U.S. agent, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, bud?
Pretty good. Had a good weekend. I feel like we haven't been on a show in a while. You know, I ended up catching Mortal Kombat this weekend. I loved it. I'm excited for those types of movies. So yeah, I'm ready to dive into the slate.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat and Falcon Winter Soldier finale. Have you been catching up on that?
I have to catch up on it. I'm way behind on a lot of shows.
Yeah, it was hit or miss. There's some stuff you could tell that they had to cut out with because of the coronavirus. It looks like there's a virus side plot they're going to have, so they had to cut that out. And so it was kind of a mess, but some of the core points were really great. I enjoyed it a lot, but we're not here to talk about Captain America and the Winter Soldier. We're here to talk about the NHL. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about last night's slate a little bit. Starts and ends with Conor McDavid, as a lot of Edmonton slates do. I'll double check. Did he have all his goals in the second period? No, just two out of three in the second period. Scored late in the first. 3 goals, 1 assist. Conor McDavid broke the slate last night, as he's wont to do. Leon Draisaitl had 1 and 1. McDavid was a big factor in winning lineups last night, but there were a lot of different spots that got there. A late hammer came through with San Jose. That top line did work, especially Evander Kane. Jacob Chychrun, 2 goals and an assist, 3-point night. Some DFSers out there were even fortunate enough to put Jacob Chychrun in their utility, which really worked out very well last night for some people. A couple games that were on last night's slate are going to be on tonight's slate. Carolina and Dallas, Florida and Nashville. Those 2 games, I don't know if you caught any of them. I caught some of the Dallas Carolina game. Now, just it almost seems to me Carolina's, I don't want to say they're playing safe, but it almost seems like they're just trying to avoid injury and just get to the playoffs. Like, I imagine almost half the league is in that boat right now, because like 13 or 14 of the playoff spots are pretty much already wrapped up. But what do you think about back-to-backs like this? You know, all 4 teams could ostensibly be in the playoffs in their respective division. How do you treat back-to-backs like this when these are teams that are effectively playoff teams that could be in a series, in 2 or 3 weeks down the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, like especially the Carolina Dallas game, because it's the late game on the slate, and there's some question marks on who's going to be in, who's going to be out. Yeah, and you're right. It looks like Carolina's kind of on autopilot. They're just kind of flying straight to the playoffs. They're just trying to, go through the motions. Dallas, they're still working through stuff because of the injuries. I would imagine Rope is going to be out tonight. It's not official, but they're probably going to be in the playoffs, so they want to get him as healthy as possible. Florida, they have new guys, so maybe they're kind of, trying to get the right combinations aligned, so they're going to play pretty hard. Nashville, I don't know. I used Nashville 3 last night, so that ended up working out for me. I was going to use him with Edmonton 1. I ended up swapping to Colorado 1 late, which was not a great swap, but McKinnon had a goal in his shot bonus, and his line mates didn't do too much. Same with McDavid, like Jesse Puljujarvi and Dominic Cahoon didn't really do too much, so it was more of like a one-off. McDavid really got you there. And on Chychrun real quick, I'm on the Homer highway of Fox for Norris, but I think, Chychrun's definitely way up there. He's probably ahead of Fox.
Yeah, Chychrun's just been excellent this year. I agree with you. I don't think I'd put him in my top 3, but he's probably in that tier for me just below my top 3, like in that, 4, 5, 6 mix. So yeah, Chychrun, excellent player. Reminds me that the old GM traded up to get him in the draft, and then the GM got fired because he was tampering with players. So maybe there's something else going on with Chychrun that we don't know about. But we got to get moving. We got 8 games on this slate we have to get to. Before we get to those games, if you guys could, while you're here, throw us a like and a subscribe. The subscriptions especially really help us grow the channel, help keep these shows coming. NHL is starting to slow down, as it always does in the final couple weeks of the season, but everything else is really picking up steam, MLB especially. So like and subscribe, click that notification bell if you want to find out whenever we get on the air. And if you're not able to watch our shows, most of our shows are available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. Just head to awesemo.com/podcast and check out all the podcasts we have. I think every show except the Live Before Locks go up. Obviously, Live Before Locks don't have a lot of value as a podcast that you can download later. But just about everything that we have is available at awesemo.com/podcast. So head there if you want to check out any shows that you may have missed. Leave a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or your email address for a chance to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That chance is good for up to 1 year. So head to awesemo.com/podcast to check out what we got going on for our podcast here at awesemo.com. All right, let's get to the slate. Very first game looks like a lopsided game, and it's got your boys on one side of it. We've got the Buffalo Sabres at 2.2 implied goals going into New York to face the Rangers. The Rangers have a 3.9 implied goal total. Colin Blackwell, you were telling me before the show, it looks like he's a game time decision. Now, who would fill in for him is kind of up in the air. I think it would be Kravtsov, because we have seen Kravtsov move up there at times over the last couple of weeks, a shift here, shift there every game or so. So I think he'd move up to the second line if Blackwell is out, but we don't know if he's out yet or not. Jacob Trouba is expected to be out. Igor Shesterkin against Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in net. All right. What do you like here, Josh? I assume you like the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Rangers here. I'm not really concerned about matchups. The Zibanejad line is going to get the Reinhart matchup most likely, but that, it's not frightening by any means. Like they're, that Buffalo top line is decent offensively, but they're not anything to be right home about defensively. So, that top line is good as a full stack. The problem is the power play correlation isn't great. Buchnevich and Lafreniere are on the second power play. Mika's on the top power play. And if you saw in the last game, the Rangers really took advantage of the Sabres on the power play. So, I mean, you can go to that second line. The second line is where I prefer to go anyway. Get Strome and Panarin on the top power play unit. They're going to be chalky. They're expensive. The question mark with Blackwell there, they expect him to play. They said he took like an awkward fall in last game or something like that. He may be in protocols. He may be past them, but the coach is going to speak around 5:30 Eastern, so we might get some clarity there. But I do like that second line. I also like that third line, Kreider, Hedel, and Kakko. They're going to get, the bottom six of the Sabres. If the top six isn't anything scary, the bottom six certainly won't be either. That third line, it's not great power play correlation, but you're going to get low ownership on a line in a high total game. And also, if you want to go to a power play stack, that is certainly fine. It is pricey. You do like a Zibanejad, Panarin, Strome, Fox is over 7,000, so it's going to get really pricey. You're going to have to get a little bit funky to fill out the rest of your lineups. But the Rangers really did some work on the power play last game, so I think you can go back to there. On the Sabres side, I'm not really going to be full stacking any lines. I mean, if I was, it would probably be that top line: Reinhart, Olofsson, Skinner. If you want to one off of Casey Middlestad, he's getting a little bit pricey though. So really, outside of a little bit of that top line, maybe some Dylan Cousins because he's on top power play. He's going to see, the Hedel line or, the fourth line. If you need like a cheap one-off center on the power play, Dylan Cousins makes a little bit of sense. But other than that, I'm probably going to be off Buffalo tonight.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in Buffalo. I'll start with them. In net, I guess if you want to use Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, 6,900, that's fine. We'll talk about him in a minute. I just don't have any interest in the forwards. Even Casey Middlestad, like I would probably use him at like 3,100 or 3,200, 4K. Like that's just a hard pass for me. Sammy Reinhart up to 6K. Like this is a complete shooting percentage bender. I'm not paying 6K for Sam Reinhart on the road. I'm just out on Buffalo in general. I think the one guy I might play is Henry Jokiharju. His minutes have come up. Him and Dahlin seem to be making a good defense pair together. So don't mind him as a punt at 2,800. But for me, this is about the Rangers, but I do want to say that they have fallen off a bit defensively, right? Like their expected goals against this month are right in the same range as like Chicago and Detroit. Like it hasn't been very pretty for the Rangers defensively in the month of April, but it has been offensively, and that's all we really care about for DFS. Neither team has really taken a ton of penalties, right? Buffalo doesn't have a good penalty kill, so I don't think the Rangers need like 4 or 5 power plays for a power play stack to get there tonight. Just be aware that the Buffalo Sabres aren't taking a ton of penalties. So the Rangers might only get 2 or 3 opportunities here tonight. That's just one thing, if you're on the fence about playing Rangers because of price or ownership or whatever, that's just one thing I want to mention. But their power play has been great. I'm pretty sure it's number 1 in the NHL in the month of April, both by expected goals and actual goals. So I don't think the Rangers need 5 opportunities to score 1 power play goal here tonight. So power play stack absolutely can work out. So I'm with you on the Rangers, like power play stacking. Like if you're worried about ownership, I think that's the way to go. But I do like that third line call. They have been really good since Kreider's gotten there. They were about a league average line before he got there, which is good for a third line. Like if you're a third line in your league average, that means, you're doing better than most third lines. And Chytil and Kakko have played together, quite a bit this year, especially since Chytil got healthy. I do like that third line. If you're looking expensive elsewhere, like we're going to be talking about like Boston or Pittsburgh or even Chicago or something later on. If you need a cheap filler, I like that Rangers third line. On the blue line, like I said, Joker, how are you sticking out for me on Buffalo? Brendan Smith has been playing a lot of minutes for the Rangers. Keandre Miller has not. So I kind of like Smith at 2,700. What do you think?
Yeah, kind of feels bad saying let's play some Brandon Smith, but yeah, but he is in the low 20s. He played 21, 22 the other night. I'm kind of hoping Zach Jones starts eating into those minutes. He is on the second power play now. He only played 12 minutes last game, registered his first NHL assist. But, Brandon Smith tonight for sure. You hope to see Zach Jones getting up around 15, 16 minutes. Then we can start throwing Zach Jones into the conversation.
Yep, I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm not playing Zach Jones yet either. Shesterkin, pretty expensive at 8,300. I'm not playing him. I think the better question is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen at 6,900. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to fade the Rangers, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, first try. Hello.
Not bad.
Yeah. I think he makes some sense. The volume's going to be there. Igor is going to be chalky. I think, if you're going to do like a power play stack and put in Igor, I don't think many people are going to do that, pay up for Igor in that spot. What concerns me is shot volume and maybe giving up like a goal on 27 shots, something like that. His value might not be as good.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that's why I probably won't play Igor tonight. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, he's at least going to – I'll at least be considering him. I don't know if I'm going to play him yet. He's definitely going to be under consideration, though.
You take away the name, right, and you tell me, will you play a 6,900 goalie against the Rangers? The answer is usually going to be yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Maybe we'll talk cheaper. There are cheaper goalies later this slate that we could talk about. So it's not necessary to play him. Let's get to that next game. We have the Boston Bruins with a 2.8 implied goal total going into Pittsburgh. The Penguins also have a 2.8 implied goal total. I believe these two teams played on Sunday and it was a 1-0 game. And I think there was only 1 power play, but I mean, like Sunday afternoon games, nobody really cares about them anyway. The matchups in that game were interesting to me. Top line versus top line, which is kind of what you'd expect. But then Pittsburgh 3 went out against the Boston second line, and Pittsburgh 2 went out against the Boston third line. That's an interesting matchup situation for me, and I think that brings both sides into play here. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this game, because right now we're showing fairly low ownership, like almost across the board. We have in our top stacks tool over at Awesemo.com, we have the Boston top line coming in under 2% and the Pittsburgh top line coming in under 6%. So there might not be much ownership in this game at all. So I think taking our time to, dig through some of the matchups could be important. So what do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, that top line going against top line, it's kind of a wash. Like if you're building a limited amount of lineups, I don't think Boston 1, Pittsburgh 1 are going to be priority. If you're, max entering the 15, whatever it is, 95, 110, whatever the number is, I think you can have a handful, like just to get over the field, like on Boston 1, you just really need like 3 or 4 of 150, and they're an elite line. So, if you have some FOMO about, fading Boston 1 to get over the field tonight, it's, you only have to have a handful. Same with Pitt 1. They're an elite line. They're going up against each other. And yeah, they're probably going to neutralize each other. But if you run that through 150 times, maybe a couple times Penguins 1 have a big game. You run it through 150 times, maybe Boston 1 has a big game, a couple games. So in MME, I think you can have a handful of each of those top lines. You're certainly not a priority in 20 max or below. But once you start getting past like 25, 50 lineups, you can start, building them in limitedly. But where I really want to concentrate on this game are the second lines, especially if the Carter McCann Zucker is going to get the Boston third line. You've always talked about how, even before Taylor Hall got traded to Boston, after that top line came off the ice, their numbers fall off a cliff. So getting that depth, like the bottom six, is a great matchup for Pitt too. And I really like them tonight. McCann's on the top power play. Carter and Zucker are on the second power play. They're not overly expensive. They're 13,000 as a full line. Their ownership's in check. The Penguins total is 2.8, but that's because I think the top line's in a really bad matchup. If they weren't going up against Bergeron, say like Bergeron was out, I think the Penguins total would be over 3 and there'd be a lot more ownership on this game. So I really do like that second line. And I do like, the Boston second line just from a ownership play here. I'm not super high on them, but like Taylor Hall coming in under 1% right now, obviously that's going to go up a little bit before lock, and he may come in around 4%, something like that. But if he's going to be under 5% on a 5-game slate, I think I would take some stabs on Boston too. So I really like both second lines in this game and the top lines and some deep MME stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk about that Boston 2 line because that's definitely one of the lines that really gets some decent matchups here, because that Boston 2 will be getting Pittsburgh 3. Pittsburgh 3 is not a great line to speak of defensively. Looking at 2.3 expected goals against in their limited sample together, that's not very good. Boston 2, 3.2 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 2.1 expected goals against per 60% expected goal share since they've been put together. Those are just outstanding numbers. And the matchup they're getting, Boston 3 in April, 1.6 expected goals for, 1.9 expected goals against, 45.6% expected goal share. Those are terrible numbers. Now, Jake DeBrusk, I think, is going to be a scratch, and I think it was Trent Frederick taking his place on the third line, but it might make them a little bit better, but on Boston's third line. Pittsburgh's third line is still going to be intact. Like it doesn't really matter what Pittsburgh's third line is going to be here. They're just not, with Malkin still out, they're just not deep enough just yet to take on a line like Hall, Krejci, and Craig Smith. So I still like Boston 2 in this game. Pittsburgh 2, I think for the same reason. Pittsburgh 2 is in range for me because Jake, Boston third line has been terrible. Like I said, 45.6% expected goal share. But Jake DeBrusk is going to be out and Trent Frederick is going to be in. I think that makes them a little bit better, but it's not enough to where, like, if I was on Pittsburgh 2, it's not enough to be like, I'm not going to play them now. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, that if you're on Pittsburgh 2 before, DeBrusk being out shouldn't change your mind. But I think the better second line to use in this game is Krejci, Smith, and Hall. So I do like Boston 2 a lot in this game. They've been just really, really good since they've been put together, and they have a great matchup. So I'm in on Boston 2. On the blue line, Mike Matheson isn't getting a ton of time on ice, but I think he's leading Pittsburgh defensemen in shot rate this month, and he's second in block rate. So, 18 to 20 minutes, that will probably be enough. I do like Mike Matheson in this game on the blue line. Is there anybody else on the blue line that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, Matheson's down at 3,200 now. It's not like he's at like 41. So, like, at that price, 18 to 20 minutes is perfectly adequate. If you want to, I'd rather play him over Cody Ceci at the same price. But, if you're a CC stan, you can load in CC. On the Boston side, outside of correlating Boston 1 with Grzelcyk, maybe looking at Charlie McAvoy, but his price is a little expensive. I don't mind Mike Riley at 3,100 either. Are
there CC stands? Are there Cody CC stands? There must be.
I'm talking to one.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I deserve that one. All the goalies are relatively the same price in this game, so I'm not playing any of them. Are you?
Yeah, no, I don't like the goalies in this game. Just from a price standpoint, like Tristan Yari at 7,800, like he's chalk when he's 8,500. I don't want to play chalk Yari at 7,800. Even if whoever it is for Boston's a little too pricey for me in this matchup.
All right, I hear you. Up on the site today, we have some free premium tools and data. It seems like we have some free premium tools up on the site almost every day. Today is no exception. Up on the site, we have free NHL and MLB top stacks. You just heard me talk about the NHL top stacks with the Pasternak and Crosby lines and their ownership. Those top stacks are free today over at Awesemo.com. We also have the NBA Big Board as a free premium tool today, and we also have our PGA Pro Play. So NHL, MLB, NBA, PGA, if you need some free premium tools or data to help you out for tonight or this weekend coming up, head on over to Awesemo.com. We got some stuff over there that can really help you out. All right, let's move it along. Detroit has a 2.4 implied goal total. They're going into Columbus. The Jackets have a 2.9 implied goal total. I believe both of those have come down through the day as the over-under has fallen from 5.5 to 5. Vegas not really expecting a lot of goals in this game, it appears. The big news, Liam Foudy, I'll have to double check that, is making his debut, season's debut for the Jackets. He's going to be playing with Jack Roslovic and Patrick Laine. I imagine that's going to be a very bad line. Not a whole lot to speak of on Detroit's side besides Joe Velano. I believe that just came down as we were on the air. Joe Velano looks like he's going to be in the lineup for Detroit here tonight. I just want to take a minute to talk about him. He was a guy that was drafted, I think, 3 years ago by Detroit, but he had some sort of really bad injury in his draft year, and that dropped his stock quite a bit down towards the end of the first round. Like they got him like 29th or 30th overall, and that really impacted him for the next year or two. He was legitimately supposed to be a superstar coming out of that draft. Like his PNHLE, which is probability of NHL points, was superstar potential according to Dauber Prospects, which is where I work on season-long fantasy hockey. Now, that's obviously come down as, like I said, he struggled with injuries. Last couple seasons haven't been super great. Had a good year. He was over in the Swedish league is where he's been playing. I think he had 20 points in 46 games this year, which is really good in that league for a 20-year-old. That's a men's league. That's a man's league. I like Joe Velano. We just don't know where he's going to play because, like I said, it just came down 15, 20 minutes ago that he's going to be in the lineup. I think he can be good. I don't know if it's necessary to play him here tonight, but it is the Columbus Blue Jackets. I honestly don't know what to do with the Detroit side because with Velano coming in, we don't really know what the lineup is going to be. And on Columbus, we have one line that might stay together for a while. We don't know, all the usual caveats with Columbus are in play here today as far as John Tortorella is concerned. So I really want to hear your thoughts on this game, Josh, because I think this is an interesting game because you don't necessarily have to stack out of it, but I think there are going to be players of interest.
Yeah, I think we'd all be better off if this game wasn't on the slate. But it is.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah. This is an interesting game, but I prefer it just wasn't here.
Yeah, so Liam Foudy with Roslovic Laine, that line is going to get run over. But the problem is who's going to go against them? Adam Ernie, Vladislav Domestikov, Philip Zadina, come on. So, on the Detroit side, one-off Jacob Vrana makes some sense. One-off Philip Zadina makes some sense if you want a two-man Vrana and Zadina because they're on the power play. But Columbus doesn't take many penalties, so I don't know if you really need it or want to stack anything on the Wings power play. So I think, I don't think I'd full stack anything on either side. So on the Detroit side, I'd probably one-off some Vrana. I'd one-off some Zadina. But, it really – Joe Velano could come in on the third line. He'd come in on the top line. We just don't know with Blashill. So, you just have to go with what you know. Vrana, Zadina, some one-offs. On the Blue Jacket side, I wish these lines were better, but, it is Torts. He's burning the castle down before he gets thrown out.
Just want to interrupt you real quick. I was just checking Ansar Khan's Twitter feed, and Velano third line between Panic and Gagne.
That's not terrible. It's not something I want to do.
But, it is the Columbus Blue Jackets after all.
Yeah. So I would imagine Joe Velano's min price, or is he even in the DK pool? So if he is if he's in the DK
he's pool, in the pool, 2,500.
Yeah. So that line's 8,400. That line's 8,400 going against God knows who on Columbus. So like if you need like a super cheap stack, like Velano's going to have no ownership, and why not take a chance? But like on the Blue Jacket side, I think looking at this ownership, it makes me just want to fade them altogether. Like I don't know if I want to play 15% Bjorkstrand, but like he does make sense as a one-off. I think looking at like ownership, I know Cam Atkinson is expensive at 6,400, but his ownership is down around 8%. I think I'd rather one off him, and then even Patrick Laine like at 3%, just on the off chance he gets going. Like he has the potential to score multiple goals. We've seen it. He does go through these stretches where he's non-existent, and his Columbus Blue Jacket tenure has been terrible, and it's going to come to an end. He's going to go somewhere else. But like at 4,500 top power play at 3%, I think you can two-man him with Jack Roslovic, and you can read off all these negative connotations with the two of them, how they suck and all this, but like they correlate on the power play. They're going against Detroit, right? Laine has the potential just sit in the slot and just ding in 2 power play goals like it's nothing. So like if you do have to go to the Blue Jackets here, I think Roslovic Laine two-man makes some sense, and Atkinson one off, a Bjorkstrand one off. But I think I'd concentrate on taking a stab on Laine at his ownership.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this. Like, I don't think there's a full 3-man line I want to stack out of this game. Like, I think you're right on that. Like, if you're going to do it, like 2-man Roslovic, Laine, maybe you just want to use like Foudy and Roslovic and leave Laine off if you think Laine is just a waste of space at this point. One off Bjorkstrand, like you said, his ownership might be a little bit high, but he's the most reliable forward on that team anyway, and that's probably a reason why he's 5,500. But those are the kinds of plays I'm looking at in this game. I'm not stacking any line out of this, even with like Joe, because I'm just worried. Like, yeah, Joe Velano, looks like he's gonna get decent line mates with Panic and Gagne, but that could easily be the 4th line here tonight and play 9 minutes, right? That's kind of the problem. With Blashill and with this line. Like, if Detroit's probably not going to use Ernie and Helm in a minimal role, maybe like that Phil Pula line gets pushed down, but I would bet it's Velano. So that's kind of like, I want to play him, but I don't trust Blashill to play him 14 or 15 minutes here tonight. That's kind of what's scaring me from him. So I'm going to stick to the known names, like one off like a Bjorkstrand, or one off like I like your call with Laine. Jacob Vrana, I think people are still going to chase that 4-goal game, but at 4,600 against Columbus, I will never say he's a bad play. So just one-offs like that is probably where I'm going to be. Philip Peronic has been playing a little bit better when we're looking at the blue lines. Seth Jones, his peripherals have really rebounded. He's been up near 3 shots per game, I believe, since Werenski's been injured. But that's also a 6,600 price tag, and I find that real hefty for a defenseman on such a bad team.
Yeah, it's complete price fade for me. If he was like 5,100, I would love to play him, but 6,600, I'd rather go up to Fox or Hedman. I'd find the extra $300 for Hedman tonight. 6,600 is just too much for Jones. And I agree on Hronik. 4,100 is a nice price to play. He's getting his minutes, so
yeah. In net, are we playing either of the goalies here? I know you're always a Mr. Lickens guy, but he's 8K. I think that's a little bit too expensive. Bernier Grice down at 7,100 seems more reasonable to me.
Yeah, Merzlikins at 8K. I like playing Merzlikins at 6,900, 7,000, something like that. I'm out on him at 8,000. If it is Bernier tonight, I will have some interest in him at 7,100. If it's Grice Fire, no, thank you.
Grice Fire, I like that. Liquid Demons in chat. Detroit is probably better than Columbus. I don't even really disagree with that
either.
That's kind of it's kind of sad almost, because Columbus looked like they might be one of those scrappy teams that could get to playoffs every year, make life hell. It just looks like everything's falling apart this year. Not here to wish ill on Columbus. We're here to talk about this DFS slate. So let's get to this next game. We have the New York Islanders with a 2.7 implied goal total going to Washington. The Caps have a 2.8 implied goal total. Alex Ovechkin not expected to be in the lineup for this game. Daniel Sprong going to be on the top line in his place. Justin Schultz also not going to be playing, so it's probably going to be Dmitry Orlov running the second power play unit. We don't have firm confirmation on Islanders lines. Beat writers were saying that the coach said there are still a couple issues with the lineup that he wants to iron out, and Kyle Palmieri might actually be jumping on the top line with Matt Barzal, but we don't know if it's going to be with Barzal and Eberle because Eberle's a right winger and Palmieri's a right winger. I guess they could move Palmieri to the left, but I think that would just be a case of maybe moving Eberle down a line or something like that. So there's, even if Palmieri's on the top line, we don't know what the top line is. So a little bit of a mess from the Islanders side, a little bit more certainty from the Washington side. What do you like out of this game, Josh?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think like what the Islanders could do. Like if they move Palmieri up, like I would imagine Wallstrom comes back into the lineup onto that third line. Bailey would move it back up with Nelson. Like there's just so many question marks on the Islanders side. It's hard to really use anybody like full stack. Like if you want to use Barzal, like sure, he's 1%, like he's projected at 1% right now. That's a nice play, but like you don't know if he's going to play with Eberle and Zajac or Eberle and Palmieri or Zajac and Palmieri. Like it's just a mess. Like it's hard to really, outside of the fourth line, which they never touch, like you just don't know what the top three lines are going to be. So it's really hard to give some advice on an 8-game slate when, you know, one of the more important teams on the slate doesn't have lines, especially with Ovi out. Like, not that Ovi was anything like special defensively. He's actually bad defensively, but you know, Sprong replacing Ovi doesn't make them better defensively. So there's some stuff to like on the Islanders side. We just don't know who's going to be where, and that's a big problem. So yeah, I want to use some Islanders tonight, but I just wish we had some lines. So, you know, if it comes around 6:30 and it's Barzal, Eberle, Palmieri, like, yeah, I'm going to use that line. But if it's, you know, Barzal, Zajac, Palmieri, I may not have as much interest. It just depends on the combinations. But if it is Barzal, Eberle, Palmieri, I'm going to have some interest in using that top line. If the third line sticks together, I like it. Beauvillier, John, JG, Pajot, and Bailey. Like, Bailey isn't great, but, you know, that line's cheap. And, you know, they get okay matchups and they get minutes. They're not like a stereotypical third line, so they're not a bad line. But, again, it's all conjecture until we actually know the lines. On the Capital side, with Sprong moving up with Kuznetsov and Wilson, I don't really have too much interest. I don't really have much interest in the Caps at all, like from a limited lineup perspective. Like if you're getting to 20 or you're MMEing even above that, I like the second line of Mantha, Backstrom, Oshie. But again, they're going into the Islanders. Very good defensive team. Don't take many penalties. So on the Cap side, it's really MME stuff for me. Same on the Islanders until we get clarity on the lines.
Yeah, I think I'm a little higher on Washington too than you are. They've been really, really good since Mantha got there. Still kind of a small sample, but 1.9 expected goals for per 60, 1.0 expected goals against. In April, the Islanders have a worse 5v5 expected goals against than Chicago or Detroit. Now, the flip side to that is that they're not just getting bad defensively. They're just playing at a higher pace. So they're generating a lot more expected goals for. Like, this is a high-paced team now. It's just that they're also allowing more expected goals against, which should lead to more goals against. So I think that it makes the case to both play the Islanders and to stack against them. So I think that's why I'm coming in a little bit higher on Washington too. I would put them a little bit ahead of Boston too for me in the pecking order for like second line targets. But I'm with you 100% that I have a lot more interest in the Islanders side, and where this is a 7 p.m. Eastern game. Let me double check that. Yeah, it's a 7 p.m. Eastern game. If you're not playing 150 lineups, if you're playing 1 or 3 or 5, you can put in an Islanders stack and then just, you know, figure out your stacks once the warmups hit. If you're playing 150, a little bit tougher to do that. It's really hard to get all those crunches in time. But I think it's really worth it because Washington has fallen off defensively as well. Like there's a time like a month ago where we would just flat avoid them. That's not the case anymore. They've been pretty bad defensively this month. Not bad, but like below average. And I think with the Islanders playing at a higher pace, it's very much worth that if you're only playing a handful of lineups, I think it's very much worth waiting to see what the Islanders lines are going to be, and then probably going to the second line, because I think Washington 2 will take top comp here, even though they don't really hard match a whole lot. I think Washington 2 will see some of the top comp. So I think whatever Islanders 2 is when we hit warmups is the line I want to use. I just don't know what it's going to be because we just don't have the lines. I'm just thinking of A, ownership, and B, Washington's defensive play falling off a little bit. On the blue line, I guess like Ryan Pulock has a decent price. Dmitry Orlov has been playing more minutes, but he's at 4K. Like, I find that expensive. Noah Dobson, 2,700 running PP1, but he's probably only going to play like 15 minutes. It seems like a lot of bad pricing here. What do you think?
Yeah, outside of Washington top pair, every defenseman on DraftKings on the Capitals is min price, and I still don't have any interest in them. On the Islanders side, like, if you want to put in Dobson in a power play stack, it's okay. Like, I guess it's okay. Like 2,700 for 15 minutes. Like, how much more do you need at that price? Like, if he converts on the power play, he's going to get there, obviously. But, I do worry about his minutes. They have been slowly creeping up. So maybe you bank on him getting 16, 17. But, Pulock, if you want if you're a Pulock guy like Jake is, like, he's going to load in a lot of Pulock tonight, I'd imagine. But really, I'm looking elsewhere for defensemen tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. In net, we don't have confirmation for the Islanders. Do you have any interest in Vanacek for Washington?
He's kind of priced in a spot where I wish he was cheaper, just because sometimes the Islanders kind of just like have 24 shots on goal. Like, if I knew the Islanders are going to have 30 to 40 shots on goal, yeah, I'd have some interest in Vanacek, but at that price in this matchup, I'm going to pass.
All right, fair enough. Today's show is sponsored by Jock Market. If you haven't heard, Jock Market has turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Forget waiting until the end of the game to make money. Jock Market has allowed you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money, with guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of each night. With daily markets for NBA, MLB, NHL, and PGA, you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players, then buy, sell, or hold them during the game based on your own analysis. Download the app to get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code Awesemo NHL20 for a $20 bonus on your first deposit. This is an exclusive offer only for the Awesemo community, so make sure to take advantage of it today. That's Awesemo NHL20 for a $20 bonus on our show sponsor, Jock Market. So head on over to Jock Market if you want a free $20 bonus on your first deposit. It's Awesemo NHL20. All right. Our next pair of games to get to, we have the Philadelphia Flyers with a 3.2 implied goal total going into New Jersey. The Devils have a 2.9 implied goal total. We've talked about it. Sean Couturier has started to look better than he did a couple months ago. The top line seems to be coming around a little bit, though their numbers haven't been great since being put together, but at least Couturier has seemed healthy. I think there's some stuff to like on both sides here, up and down the lineup. So let's take our time with this. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, so I was asking you about the line matching before the show, because I was assuming that Hughes was going to get the Couturier matchup, but you enlightened me to the fact that they've been sending out Nico Hischier, Zacha, and Bratt against the top competition, which actually really helps the Hughes line here, because after you get past the Couturier matchup, there's really not much there for the Flyers defensively. I'm a Hayes guy just because he was on the Rangers, but he's an okay defensive player, but he's with Joe Farabee and Travis Konechny, two younger guys who aren't very good defensively. And if first of all, the Devils don't really super hard match, but for the most part, Hischier is going to see a good amount of Couturier, which means Hughes is going to see a good amount of Hayes. And that favors the Hughes line. That Hughes Sharangovich line has been very, very good, especially from a puck possession standpoint. Yeah, they haven't had great success finishing the puck, but that could be attributed to bad luck and other factors that you really don't want to put into your analysis, and you get bad bias. So I like this Hughes Sharangovich. I like the Devils top line tonight going against the Hayes matchup. The Zacha Hischier Bratt line has been good as well. They're going to get the Couturier matchup for the most part. When I say that, maybe they'll probably see 60% of the time, something like that. Not like a super hard match, 80%, erratic Fasca line, is on you like glue. Like the Devils matching is more loose, but for the most part, Heischer's going to see a good amount of Couturier. So that kind of takes me off the Heischer line. They've been good, but they're fairly cheap and they have decent ownership. So going against the Couturier line, I'm going to fade them. And then, going to the Flyer side, because the Couturier line is going to see the Heischer line, not the Hughes line, I do have some interest in that Flyers top line. The Devils aren't a good team. Like, any way you slice it, they're not a very good team. They got some good young players, but they need some time. They need to rebuild. So I think, you saw Giroux score a couple goals the last game. Like, that was the first time he scored in like 12 games, something like that. They're starting to, it was, 2 empty net goals with like 12 seconds left, something like that, 6-on-5. But sometimes that's all, players need to start going on streaking. So I think you can take some stabs on that Flyers top line tonight. The ownership's a bit high for me. So, I think maybe I'd use it for MME only. That second line's okay, but I really don't want to go into that Hughes matchup. So I'm out on Flyers too. And then, other than that, so really I'm on both top lines tonight.
Yeah, I want to say that I like the Philly third line as a dump down line, but it's just not that cheap, right? Like Van Riemsdyk 5,900 and Lawton at 3,100. You're talking $9K, and then you add in Wade Allison. Like a 12.5K third line isn't that cheap, right? Like that's not what you're looking for here. So although I like that Philly third line and I like their matchup, I just think it's a little bit too expensive to use. So I'm out on Philly 3. The thing about New Jersey's, like I call the Hischier top line the top line. I'll just say the Hischier line. The Hischier, Zacha, Bratt line, they're all in the top power play unit together. They're perfectly correlated. So like, I'm with you. I would rather play the Hughes line because I think it's a better line. I think they're in a better matchup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But perfect correlation for New Jersey 1. That's kind of tough to get away from. So I will say I do like the matchup for Hughes a lot better. But if people want to use New Jersey 1 or the Hischier line, because of the perfect correlation, I'm fine with that. On the Flyers side, like I think the one thing I would do for the Flyers is like I might power play stack. I think that's something that makes some sense because you can get the Flyers top line. I believe they're all in the same power play unit together, and then you can throw in somebody like Wade Allison, who's on with them. Gets a little bit different. It's certainly a very unique combination. New Jersey has an absolutely terrible penalty kill. I believe they're bottom 3 in the league over the last month. So I think, some sort of power play stack, adding Wade Allison, adding Ivan Provorov, or leaving off Claude Giroux, something like that makes sense for Philly. On the blue lines, like I think Travis Sanheim is the only guy that sticks out for me basically in this entire game. What do you have?
Yeah, I like Sanheim. If you want to dump down to Felipe Myers, I think that's fine. He's under 3K. If you're correlating with the power play and want to play Provorov at 6,300, that's fine. He's a little bit pricey for me. I'd rather spend up for someone like Hedman.
Yeah, I think Provo's just a little bit too expensive for me as well. I'm not even going to talk about the goalies. We'll get to the next game. I'm serious. Yeah. We're going to get to this next game. Tampa Bay, 3.5 goal total. They're going into Chicago. The Blackhawks have a 2.5 implied goal total. They said so. Lineup problems here. They said Dylan Strome is going to be playing center, and there are a couple things that have to be worked out in the lineup. But Colleton's not releasing anything, so we don't know what it's going to be when the slate locks at 7 Eastern. Tampa Bay, we're assuming the same lineup runs it back for them here tonight. So what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really stack. I mean, I don't really stack the Blackhawks. If you like to stack the Blackhawks, it's going to be tough because you don't know the lines. The most obvious thing to do is play Kane and DeBrincat together. They're going to be on the power play together. They always end up seeing 5-on-5 time together too. So you can throw Kane and DeBrincat together. You want to throw them in with Kirby Doc. They're 3 guys on the top power play. I don't know if you want a power play stack against the Lightning. Really, like, I'm not super high on the Blackhawks anyway tonight. It's not a great matchup, but anytime you can get Kane and DeBrincat at decent ownership on an 8-game slate, I think you have to consider it in GPPs at least. So that's where I'm at on the Blackhawks. We'll see where Strome slots in, he could be up on that top line with Kane. He could be on the third line with Stillman and Kubalik. We just don't know. So, I also don't mind Kubalik as a one-off as well. Their ownership is low. This is not a great matchup for them, so I'm probably going to be under on the Hawks. But I do like Kane, DeBrincat, and Kubalik. On the Lightning side, I think Tampa 1 obviously is going to be super popular. Alex Barry-Boulet, still 2,700. He kind of woke up the other day. I guess he scored a goal. Who knows? Like in GPPs, I think you have to take a stand somewhere on these, top line fully correlated with ownership. I think in GPPs, I would fade Tampa 1 tonight. It's just got to take a stand somewhere, and this is where I'm going to take a stand. I'd totally get it if you want to play them. Fully correlated power play one, it makes all the sense in the world, but I'm going to be off them tonight in GPPs. I do like that second line, Gaudreau, Gord, Coleman. I know the power play correlation doesn't make sense at all, really, but Blake Coleman at 3,600 is someone that I'm always going to be interested at his price. And then that third line, not great power play correlation either, but they're going to get depth of the Hawks, and that's something that you really can take advantage of. So if you want some exposure in a high total game, I always say go down in the second, third lines, and the Kaloran Cirelli Johnson line is going to get some really positive matchups.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that Gaudreau Coleman line, especially because they're the line I've targeted. They've been exceptional the last few weeks. 3.0 expected goals per 60 minutes. They're above 3 in actual goals, I believe. 58.5 expected goal share. There's no matchup concern in Chicago that I'm worried about. And even you can leave off Gord if you want, because Gord is pretty expensive at 5,600, right?
You can get Gaudreau for less than Gord. So
yeah, exactly. You can stack the two of them for 6,400.
Yeah.
It's pretty close, but you can stack the two wingers for 6,400. Throw in a defenseman, like Chernak or Savard or something, and you have a super cheap stack for your Rangers or your Boston or whatever you want. So I do like that call from Tampa, but that's probably all I would like from the Tampa side. Like Tampa 1 hasn't been that great with Barry-Boulet there. Like 1.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 2.6 goals for per 60 minutes. Those aren't great numbers for a top line, especially not one that figures to be relatively chalky here tonight. We have them as the third most owned line on the slate. So, out on Tampa Bay, other than the Gord line. On the Chicago side, I'm pretty much out on them altogether. I think all I would do is one off somebody like Kane or Kubalik. That's about where I am with Chicago. On the blue line, now that Adam Bachfist is back on the top power play unit, he has value again, 2,600. Definitely don't mind him. Eric Chernak, he's starting to get up there at 3,800, but I think that's still fine for the minutes he's playing. What do you like here for defenseman?
Yeah, Chernak, Savard's $400 less. He's been playing 22, 23 minutes. I think you can go there. Chernak as well. If you're using Tampa 1, Hedman makes some sense, 6,900. He's going to be chalky, but I think, you already know that going into playing Tampa 1, so I think he's fine. Bachwist, 2,600. At that price, I think he's fine. This isn't the best power play matchup, but at that price, I think he can. Even Keith at 4,000, he's not like 5,500 or 4,000 if you need a guy. He's not the worst play in the world. And then Wynat whatever his name is. He hasn't been playing super high minutes. Like he's been around 16, 17, but for 3,100, he's been very active recently in the past, 3-4 games. At that price, I think you can put him in.
I'm not even going to bother trying to go through what that name actually is.
Yeah.
We don't have a confirmation for Tampa Bay, but nobody's going to be playing 8,500 Vasilevsky, I hope, on the road. 7K Lankinen at home. Would you rather play 7K Lankinen at home or a 6,900 Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen on the road?
I think I'm going to go Lankinen here. Just, he's done it before. He's stolen a couple games before. Woodpecker, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, very limited sample on him.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. So we have our cheap goalie for the night. It is the Lank. Before getting to our final couple of games, we love celebrating subscriber success here. If you bank some bigger contest, send your screenshot to our Awesemo HOF Twitter account or any of our Awesemo social accounts, or even just me or Josh or Jake or whomever. showing your bank with the Awesemo avatar in your DFS profile. We will be sure to shout you out. And if it's top 3 in a contest with over 5,000 entries, you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Hit up awesemo.com/announcement/avatar for full details on this contest. All right. We got 5 minutes left, a couple games to get through, both from last night. Florida going into Nashville, Florida 2.9 implied goal total, Nashville at 2.7. What's important for me here is that Gusev was moved back up onto the line with Barkov midway through the game last night, and Gusev is still power play 1. So that brings a little bit more correlation for Florida, but Nashville has an elite penalty kill, probably the best penalty kill in hockey since Ryan Ellis returned. Quickly, what do you like on both sides of this game?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go UC Saros back to back. I imagine it's going to be Pekka Rinne, which is a big downgrade in net. You were saying how bad that top line was for Nashville last night. They got absolutely just wrecked. Yeah, I like that Florida top line, especially Barkov, Gusev. Your boy, our DFS darling Frankie Vitrano, not on the top power play, but I think you can put him in. I like that top line tonight. The second line, Sam Bennett, Huberdeau, Duclair. Saros really shut them down last night, but they still got 40 shots on goal. So, the shot volume is always going to be there. Pekka's a big downgrade in net, so I think there is some merit to going to Florida here. The thing is, looking at the Florida 2 ownership, it is sky high, and that worries me in GPPs. I think I would fade the second line. I'd go to that top line in GPPs. And on the Predator side, I'm off that top line. I like that second line, but I prefer going to that third line, Cousins, Hall, Duchesne. I used them last night. I'd use them again. They're super cheap. Their ownership's in check. They're going to get the bottom 6 of Florida. So I like that third line.
Yeah, I'm with you on that Nashville third line. Don't mind dumping down to them, but I'm really all about that Florida top line. It's still kind of a guess that Gusev is going to be there. We won't know. Maybe we'll find out in coach talks here in a couple hours, but we just won't know. At the very least, he'll still get power play 1 minutes. Brandon Montour, Mackenzie Weegar are getting PP 2 minutes. Gustav Forsling getting some time on ice. What do you like for defensemen?
Yeah, I'm on board with that. If you want to use, bag of bones Yandel, that's fine, I guess. But on the Predator side, Yossi always makes some sense. Ellis at 4,600. I love him at that price. That's about it.
Yeah, Ellis 4,600 makes a lot of sense. He should be a little bit more expensive. All right, final game. We have the Carolina Hurricanes going into Dallas. Carolina's a 2.8 implied goal total. Dallas 2.7. I'll tell you right off the top, I have zero interest in Carolina from top to bottom. I think this is just a terrible matchup. They got there last night. I don't think that they should have gotten there, but that's hockey. Dallas 1 has been great. Dallas 2 has been great. Radek Faksa will be shutting down the Martin Necas line. The only worry for me is Dallas went 11-7 last night. So what do you like here?
Yeah, and then Rope, the ever popular game time decision. So
and Klingberg.
This is a back-to-back. So chances are he's going to be out. Klingberg we don't know about. I agree with you. I'm out on the Hurricane, especially if Fasca is going to get the Trocheck line. That'd be the one line in Carolina I would want to play, but not against Fasca. If Hintz is in, love Dallas 1. If Hintz is out, we have to see who moves up. Probably Jamie Benn. That line's still fully correlated on the power play, but late game back-to-back on the road with no other swap options is kind of tough. There is a price difference between Hintz and Benn. So really, I'm probably, if you want to go to like a Robertson Pavelski 2-man, I think that's fine, but I think I would avoid full stacking with nowhere to swap.
Yeah, I'm in on Dallas too. It's just like you said, Hintz is a concern. So I think all I'm going to have out of this game is maybe a one-off Miro Heiskanen. All right, Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick pick here very quickly. I will tell you my hat trick pick for tonight is Alex DeBrincat. What do you got?
I'm going to say Alexander Barkov.
Alexander Barkov. There you go. We have Alex DeBrincat, Alexander Barkov as your hat trick picks here for tonight. All right, that'll do it for us, folks. For producer Tyler, for our U.S. agent, Mr. Joshua Harris. This is Slim Cliffy, Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight. And Jake will be around tomorrow to lead you through the show. So good luck.